Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for coming back and watching another video.
Yeah, we so appreciate you guys. Your love and support for catching up with the walkers. Within 24 hours, you guys got us over 1,000 subs. We never expected that.
Yeah, we're completely blown away. We really don't know what to expect from this channel because it's a completely different format. But thank you so much for coming over and supporting us, and we are so happy you're here. So to get started with our first topic, we thought that there would be nothing better to bring it back to where it all began, and that is with home. So with home, it's the beginning of the biggest thing that we have here, and that's our homestead. And we thought it would be appropriate to kind of catch up with you guys on how we got started with a homestead here in Oklahoma. I know we've had a lot of questions over the past couple months or few months, especially during the pandemic and everything.
Yes.
A lot of people became more interested in homesteading and being more self-reliant, self-sufficient, not as dependent on grocery stores and things like that. And so homesteading is just a natural fit for people to kind of migrate to.
Yep.
And get started. So we wanted to let all of you know that there's not the perfect way of doing it, but we want to let you know how we did it. So there's definitely more than one way, but we wanted to share how we got started in homesteading.
And on a side note, I think Gary's really starting to like my Ray Dunn mugs that he used to be like, why you got so many of these? They're shaped weird, but I think he likes them.
So that's the weirdest thing. They just got an odd shape. It's not a regular circle, but once you get past that, I'm okay with them.
They're my favorite. They hold a lot of coffee. I need it to hold. Someone said, is your mug big enough on the last video? Don't spit out your coffee.
It's big enough.
Anyway, as Ranger would say on Walker Farm Fam, let's get to it.
So when we decided that we wanted to do a homestead, we did not even live remotely close to the country. So Cassie and I both grew up on farms in a rural area. We spent our entire lives there. But once we were about ready to get married, we started talking about what we wanted long term. And I don't know if we ever used this statement, but really we kind of started to begin with the end in mind.
Yeah. There was no way we were going to purchase a 60-acre farm and a house and a barn and all the things but when we first got married. So, but we knew that was our goal. Yeah,
we knew that we wanted our children to be raised up on a small farm in the rural setting, just like we were, because we learned a lot growing up on the farm, and we wanted them to get some of those same values and work ethic and different things like that instilled in them. And what better way to do that than being raised on a farm? So we knew that was what we wanted, but we were both out of college. We had a little bit of debt. We were just getting started. You could call us newbies as far as adults and getting into the real world. So we knew that we wanted that. We knew what we wanted long term, but we knew it wouldn't happen overnight. So that brought us to our very first home, which actually started the process of getting us to our homestead eventually. Yeah, so we acquired a foreclosed home, which kind of got us into our next step. And so we gutted the thing and remodeled it. It was smack dab in the middle of town, but it was only a mile from the school that I was coaching and teaching at the time, and not a terrible commute for Gary to work. So it was perfect to get us going, and we had a little bit of a backyard, and we tried to kind of turn that into a homestead. Thinking back, our neighbors probably thought, what in the world is happening over there? But like, our flower bed was a garden. We had Australian Shepherds in the background, which is a farm dog, a cattle dog, and different stuff like that. So our heart was in the country, but we were in the middle of town, and we made the best of it. Yeah, and while it was perfect for us at the time, it was a little 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and we got it really cheap. It was back in 2009, the financial crisis. We bought it out of foreclosure, and we got to go in and completely remodel it. So that kind of got us going with a means to an end. So we were able to go in, we remodeled that home, and we turned it into a rent house. And that brought us to our second home, which was another
Foreclosure.
foreclosure.
So yes, we started buying foreclosed houses from the bank, not from realtors, and flipping them, living there for a while until we felt we needed to move on, and then reselling them. And that was able to get us slowly where we wanted. But our second house was even more in town than our first one. It was in a cul-de-sac. It had an in-ground pool. Neighbors, I could just, what do they say, spit, and you could hit the house.
It had a pool in the back, and you got up on the diving board, and you could look over and be like, "Hey, neighbors!" Which we luckily had an elderly couple
on both sides
that were great neighbors,
yeah.
And I think they liked having us for neighbors because obviously the people there before had got foreclosed on, and so they had let it all grown up, and that was a bad situation. So we got the house. We did some slight modifications.
We didn't have to do much at all.
It wasn't a full remodel, and we were set for another 3 years.
Yep. It had a green belt in the back, and we knew who owned that, so that was nice. We didn't have people behind us. So God was slowly allowing us and preparing us for the future, and we looked for land nonstop. On the computer, once we had the kids, which Mazzy and Ransom were in that house for a while, I would put them in the car and we would just go drive back roads, and I would look for land for sale. But if land comes up for sale, people buy it no time, or it's way too much. A lot of times I looked for land that or farmhouses that looked like people weren't using or was maybe ran down, because we could flip houses. And so I would drive and drive and drive looking for places in my spare time.
Yeah, the struggle was real. Land, if it was available, what we were wanting was enough room for some cattle and horses at the time. And so we wanted anywhere from 20 to 40 acres with pasture land. And anytime we saw it, it was almost immediately just snatched up from the market, and we couldn't find it, or it was just a crazy amount of money,
yeah.
which we weren't going to pay. We learned some sound principles from Dave Ramsey and our financial peace class that we went to that more or less had us set on getting a decent deal, and if putting in the work and a little elbow grease could make it worth it for us, then that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about Dave Ramsey later, but along with that, that's really what set the tone. Before we got married, we went through financial peace. We weren't on the same page with money. My idea was, if it's in the bank, swipe that card, and that was not a good strategy. So we got on the same page. We started some goals. We had the end in mind, and that also set the tone for the future.
Yeah. So we kept searching and kept searching. And one day I got an email and 40 acres popped up. Not in our ideal location. We wanted to be centered closer to Locust Grove, closer to our kids' school, closer to our church and our family. But a deal popped up about 20 miles east of where we wanted to be, 15 to 20 miles. And it was 40 acres, 4 ran down chicken houses, and a home that had absolutely no value. So
yeah. Luckily we'd been flipping houses, and when we saw it, we thought, we can do this instead of run. Yeah. This is horrible.
And it was just not what we were looking for, but it was close enough that we went for it.
We wanted a homestead and a farm so bad that we're like, this is it. And God worked it out. It wasn't like I was driving the back roads and found it, or it wasn't like we saw the sign, like Gary said, he got an email because we had been looking for places. So he got the email, and then the process of obtaining the property and buying it was smooth, and God's hand was in it.
Yeah, I can't stress enough that God's hand was in every one of these transactions. So when we went to the courthouse and bought those houses on the courthouse steps, the fact that the bank even let them sell for what the money was owed on them was just God's hand. And just we've had blessing after blessing, and we can't do anything else rather than give God credit for that. So this next house, though, like I said, the house was free. So this was our free house, and our free house needed a lot of work. We walked in, just the very first thing on the middle of the living room floor was a big pile of raccoon poop.
Yeah, there was no front door.
No, there was no, well, yeah, the door had been ripped off. The power box had been ripped out.
people taking all the copper that they could. Our niece, she's now 13, but at the time she was a little older than Ransom.
Yeah.
When we showed our family had to been thinking, what is happening?
Why are
But Bethany said, I'm never coming to your house. But fast forward, and when we moved in, she came over and loved it and said, can I stay here forever? So that kind of tells you the elbow grease we put into it. And it wasn't ideal. It was tiny. We now had 3 kids and a tiny house, but it was worth it because we were able to start our farm and do lots of things out there.
Yeah, and so it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of Cassie shouldering responsibilities while I went out there and worked. Because keep in mind, all this time...
Yeah, we had kids while we were remodeling.
During these 10 years of buying houses and reselling, we had Ranger. We started foster care, and we'll get into that later. But we fostered for 2 years, adopted. We fostered for 2 years, adopted again. I went back to school for some reason during all this, and I went and got my master's degree in business I guess I just wanted the extra...
You just felt like you had nothing else to do.
The extra pressure. So during all that time, we were busy to say the least. But that just shows you the determination and, everything that has to go into getting a homestead if you want one.
Depends how bad you want it.
Yeah.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. We didn't get a penny of inheritance. We weren't... just given land, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Which our parents have land. They said we could build, that we could come out there, but we wanted something that was ours, something that we could do whatever we wanted on it and not feel like, oh, I shouldn't do that because I don't know if they would like. But anyway, we wanted something that was ours. That's what we wanted. Yeah.
So that's what I want to stress for anybody out there starting a homestead. So just don't give up. If you have the will and you want it bad enough, you'll work hard enough to get it, and it's possible because we live in a great country. This is the greatest country in the world. With all the downsides that you have here, there's way more upside than down. So we are blessed to live in this country of opportunity. So the house, we completely remodeled it. We stayed in it for
2.5 years.
2.5 years, and then we started realizing probably about halfway through that point that we really wanted to be closer to our home church, our kids' school. I was commuting, taking Ranger to school. It was a total about 1.5-hour commute by the time I dropped him off and I went to work.
And I think Ransom was a game changer too because he was a baby, and the minute you put him in the car seat, he started crying. He didn't stop till you got him out, and it was 20 minutes to anywhere. And that was just if we were going to the gas station. So the kids were like, make him stop. And I told Gary, I was like, we've got to do something. Not just because of that, but we were outgrowing our place.
Yeah, Ransom was in the living room in a crib.
Yep.
So he needed his own room. We needed more space. So we had the option to either add on to that house or start looking for land. And we started looking for land, and we didn't find anything.
Well, we never stopped looking for land when we lived there.
Yeah. So fast forward to about 3 years ago. In 2017 timeline.
Yeah, a little longer than that because we've been here 3 years and we had this property for a little bit before we built on it.
Yeah, and we were wanting land, not finding anything at all. And one day, our neighbor now, who is somebody that went to our church, said, hey, I think there's some land next to me that has been leased land for a while, and they're going to be selling it soon.
We're like, jump on it before they put out a for sale sign.
Yeah, so we knew it would go on the market. So we got a contact. We contacted them, and I called them up. It was somebody that had passed away, and the land went to a family member, and another family member were over it. So I called them and said, hey, I noticed that you've been paying the taxes on this land and leasing it. Would you be interested in selling it? And her answer was, I didn't know anyone would want that land. And I said, yes, we actually do. We would love to buy it if that's at all possible. And so we worked out a deal.
But you're leaving out the most amazing thing on how God was in it. When we called and Gary said we would like to get a contract or whatever, the lady lived in Illinois. But when Gary was on the phone with her, she was within 45 minutes of us visiting family. And so we were able to work out a contract the next day.
Yeah, I went to my computer that day, and I had several contracts from the past deals we went through. So I drew up a contract. I met her at IHOP in Muskogee. I had a nice cup of coffee, and she signed the contract.
She's still like, why would anybody want that? I looked on Google Maps, and it's just a big old piece of land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she kind of signed the contract to sell, and we quickly put our place up for sale. We got that deal worked out. We started transitioning. That's when we sold all of our animals. We sold our alpacas, our goats, our sheep.
We had a miniature donkey.
Chickens, our miniature donkey. Because the new place didn't have any fences, no barns, nothing to take care of.
It had fences. It had fences that needed to be repainted.
Yeah, bad fences. Yeah.
Also, real quick, we'll move on through this so we can wrap it up. But another way God's hand was in on it, the other neighbors had tried contacting them through mail. And now we're best friends. That's who we share, or we help raise hogs for. But they didn't contact the lady before we did. Had they contacted the lady before us, we wouldn't even had the opportunity. So God's hand was in all of this. He worked out all the fine details. And again, buying that land, selling our old farm, transitioning was, I wouldn't say perfect, but it was as smooth as something like that could go.
Yeah, there were things that worked out. The only way they could was if God's hand was in it.
And we're not saying that if your homesteads have not worked out like that, then you didn't have enough faith. We just want to continue to always give the glory to God for working things out, because we know and realize that it wasn't on our own doing, because there's no way it could have orchestrated itself like it did.
Yeah, and so now what you see as Walker Farm Fam is what we have from all of those years of hard work. So I don't know if you've seen.
It took years. We didn't do it overnight.
I don't know if you've seen the picture of what success looks like. If you would even call it success, but you have years of hard work, blood, sweat, tears, late nights, long hours that all went into it. But we finally got the homestead that we dreamed of. We built our forever home. We have a house tour here that you can see. We designed this home to live in it.
Yeah, I'll put that iCard up here in case you would like to see our house and what that looks like.
Yeah, and we designed it to live here and retire in for the rest of our lives. So I jokingly say my next move is going to be probably to the morgue, because I don't plan on going anywhere. But from here, we feel like God has planted us here. We're in a great community, and we absolutely love it. So that's how we started our homestead. We may do a future video of tips and tricks on how we think would be a good way to acquire land.
Yeah, and farm equipment. We haven't bought anything new really. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, driving past farms and seeing things for sale. So we'll do that in the future, because this is going to be forever long if we keep talking about it.
Yeah, so this was, we wanted to share, kind of how it all began and kind of catch you guys up. So that's catching up with the Walkers today. But now let's go ahead and transition into our planning and praying. And I really want to kind of call out Jimmy Houston and his wife Chris. They have been going through a difficult time, but they have seen some progress, and it's great. So we will continue to pray for them. Jimmy Houston has always been kind of an icon in my eyes. When I went down to 10 Killer fishing as a kid, his store was down there, and then the Tahlequah Parade.
Well, I was going to say, Jimmy Houston has no idea who we are, but Ranger was probably 3, and Ranger's hair has slowly gotten darker, but it's always been blonde, but it used to be a lot blonder, and it was kind of grown out a little bit. And you've seen Jimmy, his hair's pretty blonde, and he keeps it kind of long, but not real long, and they're pulling him down Main Street in his boat, and we're waving, and kids are getting candy, and Ranger's beside the road, and he yells, "Hey buddy, nice hair."
Yeah, Jimmy Houston's hair and Ranger's hair were almost the same.
Yeah.
And so that was the Cherokee National Holiday Parade, and it was just a memory we have of Jimmy.
Yeah, it was like a highlight for us, even though he has no clue that it was us that he said that to.
Yeah, and so they're going through a valley right now, so just remember to keep them in your prayers. And there have been a lot of people request prayer, so just scroll down through the comments on our last video, just as we do when we go to pray at night and as we're looking over things, and we do appreciate that. So as far as planning goes, we have something that got moved up a little quicker than we expected.
Yeah, Walker Farm Fam channel doesn't even know about it, but you guys are the first to get a clue. We got the first step of a goat shelter.
Yeah, so we're getting a brand new goat shelter for the goats. I know I put a temporary shelter up and some people question the ability for that shelter to keep it dry. And I said, I promise it's temporary.
Yeah.
Because of everything going on these days, it's taken a little longer to get it, but expect that in the next couple of videos. We're going to go over our brand new goat shelter, what direction we went with, and why we felt that this was the best thing for now.
But we say goat shelter, but it's going to be multiple uses.
Yeah, we'll be able to keep a cow in there if we have a sick cow that we need to have the ability to get shelter for. And Cassie, I'm sure we'll find some way to get some chickens in there, or turkeys or something.
Well, talking about the future and talking about turkeys, got turkey eggs in the incubator. It's supposed to take 28 days. So we'll see what happens, and the ducks should be here within a week of videoing this.
Yeah, so those are some things that are upcoming that we're planning for right now. And anything else?
I don't think so. I think that covers all of it. We are so appreciative to you guys and for your support. We thank you. Like we've said, we know this kind of format isn't for everyone. Some of you guys like watching the day-to-day farm life with the kids, but a lot of you are interested in this kind of stuff, and we truly appreciate it.
Yeah, so we just want to thank you one last time for coming over. We were just completely blown away with the support we've had, and we can't thank you enough.
You guys make sure that you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, share this with your friends and family. We truly appreciate you guys. We hope that you have an amazing week or weekend, and God bless.
We'll see you next time.